Here are the best games made with GDevelop in 2023. I know that we said this last year, but again this year, a lot happened. There were improvements and changes done to the engine, like 3D integration and object folders, as well as community events and game jams. And so of course, even better games are being made all of the time with GDevelop. Now, this is purely a subjective list of my personal favorite games made with GDevelop that were worked on or released in 2023, starting with games that were part of game expos or contests. And the first game is Katuba's Poacher, which has taken part in a number of game expos in South Korea, and the game not only managed to get fully funded on their local version of Kickstarter, but they managed to raise over 5 times what they were asking for. Next is Stranded on a Raft, which took part in the Philippine GameDev Expo of 2023, as well as others, and the game has been played over 100,000 times over the course of development across the desktop and mobile version of the game. And then there's The In-Between, a side-scrolling RPG game that managed to win first place in Africa Comicade's ARC Game Pitch Contest. Now let's talk about some games that managed to accrue a large following. Gotcha Story is a fan-made visual novel game with a chibi art style that has been downloaded over 100,000 times on Google Play. Next is Spectrum, a game that was originally created for the third big GDevelop Game Jam and was the #1 judge's pick that has now been played over 3 million times across the web. Downhill Climb Racing is a side-scrolling hill driving game where you collect coins and try not to crash your vehicle. And this game has been downloaded over 1 million times on Google Play. Wise Letters is an educational mobile game designed to teach children to spell. And the game is definitely doing a lot of good because it's been downloaded over 100,000 times. And the last is Map of Air Alarms of Ukraine, which has been downloaded over 100,000 times, and it isn't technically a game, but it's a very important app for those who need it. It shows which districts or regions in Ukraine are currently under alert, along with information about the type of alert and its duration. Now let's show off some GDevelop games on Steam. Starting with Bullet Bunny. Set to release in Q1 of 2024, Bullet Bunny is an intense twin-stick shooter bullet hell game with Vampire Survivor mechanics. Bullet Bunny took part in Steam's Summer Next Fest 2023, as well as this year's Shmup Festival. Next is Swirl Watch, a tactical stealth roguelite game that was released way back in April and still maintains a 100% positive review score. Then there's Spent Shells, a game set to release in Q2 of 2024 that is a top-down roguelike inspired by great indie games like Nuclear Throne, The Binding of Isaac, and Ravita. Escape from Demon Island is a top-down game inspired by Vampire Survivors that was released on Steam back in July. Gods from the Abyss, a beat-em-up game with co-op gameplay and a Lovecraftian theme, whose demo has been played over 20,000 times. Now for some miscellaneous achievements. Starting with Examinations of Fear, which became a YouTube sensation in the analog horror scene and has been played by hundreds of YouTubers and seen by thousands of viewers. Next is a fan game called Theorists that was made for and eventually wound up in the hands of the game theorist MatPat, and was played live for hundreds of thousands of people on their side channel GT Live. Then there's the game The Boys El Patriota, created by Slumber Party Games, who were commissioned to create an official promotional game for Prime Video's The Boys. Then there's Falta de Atenção, or Lack of Attention, from the same creator as the hit game Vai Juliette, which is a game released in collaboration with the newest album from the Brazilian singer Juliette. Now for some game jam games. Starting with Void, a game created for Bracky's Game Jam 2023.2, which is a well-crafted FMV puzzle story game that managed to place in the top 3% of the over 900 games submitted to the Jam. The Haunted Dungeon, a game made in just 2 days for the Kenny Jam 2023, which is a creepy horror exploration game that placed in the top 2% of the 450 games submitted to the Jam. Static Echoes, a game submitted to this year's Scream Jam, placed 12th out of the almost 500 games submitted, and was picked as one of the host's favorite games. Gentai Shooter, an arcade-style bullet hell game featuring multiple weapons and characters, landed in the top 8% in the Bullet Hell Jam of 2023. Then there's Switch Puzzle, a level-based puzzle game where you control the character with switches to comply with the theme of on or off, and the game came in second place in GDevelop's 4th big game jam. And lastly is Power Lines, a 2D puzzle platformer game where your characters are connected by a power line. This game was submitted to Vim Jam 4 and came in first place out of the 600 people who joined the jam. Now let's show off some 3D games made with GDevelop. Starting with Kings of Rhythm, a linear story side-scroller game that was originally created for a GDevelop game jam, but has been worked on since to further flesh out the game. Then there's Web Arcade Builder, a game hosting game where you're able to build and design your own arcade space, and then load games in from the web to play through the game cabinets. Then there's Logic Bulb Adventure, a game where the player switches between a 2D handheld console and the 3D world in order to solve logic gate-based puzzles. And then Nightfall, a low-poly style 3D RPG that's being developed to include combat in a 3D space. And then lastly, there's a currently unnamed game that's being developed. It's inspired by games like XCOM and Eye of the Beholder, and so the game is a 3D turn-based dungeon crawler that uses 2D sprites in a 3D environment. And now let's just speedrun some honorable mentions here at the end. Error Vacui Preludium, a sci-fi point-and-click mystery game. Sprout Island, a top-down farming sim. Last Toll, a tower defense brawler. It's Not You, It's Me, a story-driven platformer game. Sticky Keys, a platformer puzzle game that features a slime. Treasure Quest 3D, Golden Voyage, a 3D treasure hunting game. Sunny's Delivery Service, a 3D fetch quest game. Bottle Shooting, a physics-based knock-'em-down game. Galactic, an arcade-style space shooter. And finally, Pumpkin Detective, a turn-based card battler. These have been the best games made with GDevelop in 2023. I hope you enjoyed that list and that it inspires you to create your own game. And then if you do, maybe next year we'll be showing off something you made.